Hello and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to fight the Specter of Memory. There's probably some mixed feelings about this boss because to some, you might feel like it is actually not that hard, whereas there are others who find it extremely difficult. Now this might actually be due to the type of damage characters you are running. A team that does magic damage will find it easier than a team that does physical damage simply because the boss has really high defense. Now the problem that most people face when coming across this boss is that they couldn't kill it in time or they couldn't survive the burst. So very quickly, let me introduce you to the boss. She is a medium type, earth type, and a formless type. She is immune to stun, sleep, and knockback. So the only two interrupt that is good against her will be freezing and also silence. So these are the two freezing cards, Marina and also Stormy Night, which is going to be good for interrupting her skills, and the other two will be Metaller and also Whisper, which could silence and that could also interrupt her skills. The three main things that this boss does besides normal attacking is to do two buffs. One is a attack and attack speed buff, which looks like this, and another one which has a purple aura when she casts, that is a damage reduction buff. Then finally is her burst, which is an AoE damage, where you'll see a yellow light at her feet when she's casting. So a lot depends on the kind of trouble that you are facing. If you have trouble surviving, you want to make sure you disrupt her burst, and at all costs you want to make sure that she don't manage to use her burst with her attack buff at the same time. This means you want to cast either the freeze or silence when you see the yellow aura. In my opinion, the attack buff and attack speed buff is not that important to you as long as she doesn't use her burst when she has those buffs. If the problem that you're having is killing her in time, then you want to disrupt her damage reduction buff that has a purple aura at her feet. This buff is stackable, so for the first time she casts it, it's 10% damage reduction, the second will be 20, and so on. If you're low on CP, it's okay to ignore the first cast since it's only 10%. However, if you have enough CP, you can use things like the Drake, Bloody Butterfly, or Griffon, which could remove the buffs. So one of the things that I would do if I have a Bloody Butterfly in hand, I would actually wait for him to buff. Once the buff is complete, I'll use the Bloody Butterfly and cancel it. The reason why is because the duration of casting the buff is also quite long, and so during that duration, he wouldn't be doing anything. So it kind of makes sense to let him finish up and then cancel his buff. On the other hand, if you want to do enough damage on the Specter, other than stacking multipliers with different cards, may it be physical damage or magic, you can also use a card like Chimera. This does a consistent poison damage to the enemy per second, and it will give you a lot of value for the CP that you need to spend the longer you fight her. On top of that, there's also a damage debuff that reduces her damage. Don't use anything else that gives poison like Snake or Xenork, simply because their damage is too little. This one does 100 every 3 seconds, and this one does 200 every 2 seconds. If your team is mainly physical damage, I feel like Orc Zombie might be a good option as well. The reason why is because the enemy has a lot of defense. Removing its defense at a percentage might be more valuable than trying to buff your attack. Finally, when it comes to passive, you want to have things like Moonlight Flower that gives you CP capacity and also regeneration. Coco can also give you regeneration. And then you have things like Skeleton Worker that increase your damage on medium-sized monster, which she is. There is also Peko Egg that does more damage to formless monster and also take less damage from formless monster. Now with that said, I feel like Skeleton Worker might be something that you may consider upgrading simply because you could also use this in PvP. However, I don't advise actually upgrading Peko Egg, and it also depends on, again, the setup that you're running. If you're more of a magic type, then damage wise you can use things like the Evil Snake Lord and also Mistress of Shelter. If you are running a physical type, then you can consider going with the Carlsberg and also Drake. Finally, I feel like it goes without saying that if you are under leveled or if your equipment is not upgraded at all, it's definitely going to be a lot tougher. So if you feel like you did really well and you still couldn't beat the boss, maybe you want to go leveling a little bit and also make sure you upgrade your weapons and armor before facing him. Personally, the first time I fought her, I was at level 35 and I didn't know anything about her. I went in with all kinds of cards. Half of them did not prove to be useful. I went back to do my dailies and my side quests. By the time I came back, I was at level 38. Now she is a level 40, so technically I'm still kinda under level, but I have no trouble defeating her, and one of the reasons is because I have 2 mages in my team. So I didn't really think too much about this boss. However, being in the guilds, soon after I started seeing questions about how to defeat her. When I used my alternate, which is a physical type, I actually had trouble dealing with her until level 40. So yeah, I hope this video helped and you know what to look for to counter according to the kind of build that you're in. Because I feel like the problem with showing gameplay of defeating bosses is that it may not always apply to you because you might have different cards and different setup for your characters. Okay, that's all for this video. I hope it helped. Give me a subscribe maybe. Bye bye.